So why is it when I'm always driving, I just happen to be driving in the perfect angle for the sun to beam in right through the small space that the visors don't seem to want to cover? All right, moving on to a much lighter and happier subject. I gotta talk about my dog. I really do. He's just so wonderful. He's just so wonderful, and he's my soulmate. He's a dog, and of course, they're all great. You know, one of my favorite pictures I've ever seen online. I'm sure you've all seen it at this point. It's so great. It's a guy sitting on a bench in front of a lake. And up above his head is the little thought bubble. And there's three of them. There's a boat, there's a vacation, and there's maybe a car or something. All the things that he's dreaming he had. And then next to him is his dog sitting nice and comfortably and obviously very calm. And there's a bubble above his head, right? And it shows the guy sitting on a bench in front of the lake. Isn't that great? You know, we could learn something from dogs, you know? But my love of dogs actually is relatively recent. And what I mean by that is I grew up with cats. I did. I grew up with cats, and, you know, that's just the way it was. You know, there were 3 cats in my lifetime living in my parents' house in New Jersey. And when I moved to New York City from New Jersey, the person who I moved in with had a dog, you know, and I was like, oh, okay, well, dogs are smelly and they're, you know, high maintenance and blah, 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 blah. I wasn't all that crazy about it, but like most people who meet dogs, like within 10 seconds, you fall in love with the dog, right? So there's this pug that we have, and I just instantly become a dog person, like right away. I had cats for the first, 20-something years of my life, right? And the second I live with a dog, I'm a dog guy from now on. You know, they just have that effect on you. And everybody listening is like, well, yeah, Ross, we know this. Because it's so true. It's so true. So, sadly, in I think 2014, the dog passed. I mean, it lived a good life, obviously. I mean, the dog always had problems, heart problems, breathing problems, all sorts of problems that go along with the dogs that have those pushed-up snouts. They're just defective breeds. It's the way it is, you know. But so it was really sad, and it's funny because when all the cats that I grew up with died, I felt nothing. I know, Ross, that's so cold-hearted. No, I don't know. I didn't realize until I got a dog that I just don't have that emotional connection to cats, because you don't feel like, you know how that old saying that, like, you know, dogs have owners, cats have servants. I mean, it's so true. Don't get me wrong, the cats were great, but I don't know, I just didn't feel anything when they passed. I mean, of course I was sad they were gone, but there weren't any tears or anything. But on my 34th birthday, that's when the dog died. In my arms. Oh, Ross, you said this was going to be a happy story. It gets happy, okay? You can't have joy unless you have tragedy, okay? You can't have light without the dark, okay? So deal with it. Man, Ross, you're yelling a lot, and I'm uncomfortable. Passionate's the word you're looking for. Passionate. Swedish. Ross, I think you've lost your mind. Okay, listen. All right, so this dog dies on my birthday, and I drive the dead dog corpse to the place in which it was going to be buried. You know, originally you don't think you're going to bury your pets, but then when it dies, you're like, nah, we're burying this pet. Anyway, I go about 2 years without any kind of pet, which is just the perfect amount of time. You know, you don't realize how, I don't mean this negatively, but you don't realize how trapped you are with a pet. You know, every time you want to leave, oh, we got to get coverage or we got to take it with us, you know. So it was kind of nice having 2 years where I didn't have to worry about a pet, you know. But I was at a time where I was just ready for a pet. You know, I was single at this point. in 2016, and I'm just, things are just 2016 was a really, really awful year for me, and I just, I don't know. One day I'm sitting in my office in Manhattan, and I'm kind of just leaning back on the chair with my hand on my chin, just thinking, what am I doing? Like, what's the meaning of life? And I'm just kind of, wallowing in self-pity. And on my desk, underneath a couple of papers, I see like half, like half of the paper, and I see like a dog on it. Okay, and I just kind of lean, because my office always had a bunch of people just you know how it is when you have an office that everybody shares, there's just papers everywhere. So I pull this thing out, and it's a picture of this brown and white dog, and there's a little note on it, as if the dog wrote it, Hi, my name is Max. I'm an 8-year-old pit bull who needs a home. And I went, ho, all right, But then I keep reading, right, because I'm intrigued. I've been, potty trained, I'm obedience trained, I'm no longer a puppy, so I'm not going to jump on you. Just this beautiful little thing. And I don't know. I'm just sitting there staring at this paper like, you know what? I'm going to get this dog. Screw it. I'm getting this dog. So I walk out onto the sales floor, right? And I ask around. I'm like, does anyone know where this came from? And this guy, he goes, yeah, that's my friend's boyfriend. He wrote that. And I said, oh, okay, all right. And he goes, yeah, his girlfriend is giving their dog up for adoption. Now, that's always a red flag for me, okay? Why are you giving your dog up? Is there something wrong with it? Okay? Did you wake up in the middle of the night and it's staring at you and it's drooling like, any day now, I'm going to do it. So I asked. I said, all right. So I set up a meet, okay? And a person actually worked right around the corner from the store. So I walked over there once and, with this guy. And I said, hey, I'm interested in this dog. Can you tell me about it? And he goes, oh, my God, he's such a wonderful dog, and he's great. And I'm like, okay, but what's with the adoption thing? Like, if he's so great, like, why, why are you giving up the dog? And it was such a sad story. So apparently the owners of the dog were getting evicted from their house. And, for those of you who know what it's like to try to find a rental, that, there's most places, especially out in New York, they don't allow dogs in their houses. And even the places that do flag certain breeds. And of course, pit bull, for some bizarre reason, is number one on the list. Well, Ross, they've murdered so many people. I'm not going to get into it, folks. It's the owners, okay? A Chihuahua, if it was the size of a pit bull, would do so much more damage to our human race than a pit bull, okay? It's true. Moving along. I can get really fired up about this topic, so don't get me going. Okay? So anyway, it's a sad story. So the only place that they could find they can afford wouldn't allow dogs. They had to give their dog up for adoption. They've had this dog for 8 years, and they had to give it up. And it's a really sad story. So I reach out to then the owners who actually have the dog, and I said, listen, I'm really interested. And they go, oh, they were so happy. And, so we decided to set up an actual meet and greet. And they wanted to come over to my apartment in Queens. So I said, okay. So we met after work. So I'm sitting outside on the stoop in the front of the apartment building, and I'm waiting. And then suddenly there's this car. It parks. And there's 3 people, a mother, a daughter, and a son, pop out of this minivan, and out comes this dog. Okay, now I'm a little nervous because I didn't know much about pits, and there's a stigma attached to the breed, so I didn't know. So they come up, and I said, "Hey, are you whatever?" And they said, "Yeah, are you Ross?" I said, "Yeah." And I see the dog, okay, and immediately I kind of put my hand out, palm up, like I'm going to pet its chin, and immediately the dog rests his face like on my lap. Aww. Like just the most loving introduction I could get, right? And it was like right then and there, I'm like, all right, yeah, this dog's mine. But here's the funny part, is that when they walked up with the dog, Okay, they had a bag of food, they had some bowls, and they had the thing's bed. Like, they were not going to be taking that dog home. like if I had not, if I almost like I didn't have the option to say, you know what? I think I changed my mind. Like, no, they were fully prepared before even meeting me to give up this dog. And it was, but I understand they were desperate. They were really, really hoping for someone like me. And I guess I made it work. So they came upstairs and we talked for a little bit about the routine. And then I hate to go down this road, but something really sad happened. You know, after we agreed that I was going to take the dog and we said our goodbyes, they had to leave. And so what happens, right? They go to leave and the dog, you know, tries to follow them, you know, and they have to like push the dog back inside the apartment to like lock it in there. And it was like, and everyone was crying. I mean, I wasn't crying because, you know, I was scared to have a pit bull. But the family was all crying and everything, and they had to like push him in, and the door closed, and the dog just is staring at the door like, are you going to come back in? You know, and it's just like, it was heart-wrenching. It really was. And so I'm sitting down, and he turns around, and I said, hey, buddy, it's just you and me. And, you know, he came, you know, moping over to where I was. And, you know, I started petting him, and I said, you know, hi, Max. My name is Ross. And that was it. You know, that's when I got my dog. You know, and he's been through a lot with me. And, you know, again, I have to quote this bumper sticker that I saw once. It was a picture of a paw print, and the caption is, who rescued who? You know, and that's really true. I think this dog really kept me grounded in a time that I needed to be grounded, right? Because, you know, it's a long story. I didn't have a job, and I think taking care of this dog was what I needed to kind of keep me balanced and keep things on track. And, you know, in 2000, what year was that? I think it was the end of 2016, actually. Yeah, it was the end of 2016. I moved out of New York City and into Long Island, and he came with me. And the funny part was I wasn't allowed to. Like, the landlord was like, yeah, you can't have dogs, and if you do, I need approval first. But I don't know, I just brought the dog anyway and kept him hidden. They never found out. So then it came time for me to move to Denver, and I went, oh crap, the apartment that I moved into in Denver wouldn't allow dogs. But of course, the love of my life, Laura, comes into play and says, well, maybe Max can stay here. So I rented a van, and I piled him in the van, and Max and I drove all the way from New York to Nebraska, where he was introduced to Laura and her kids and the little dog that they had named Bella, a Boston Terrier Pit Bull mix, which is a very bizarre breed, but she is adorable. And they love each other. They loved each other right away, which was great. So Max is now a family dog living on a property that's got 20 acres. We don't even have to leash him anymore. He just runs out free. You can just tell that Max is just such a happy dog. I think moving out to Nebraska was exactly what he needed. He's got so much nature and so much freedom, and he's just the happiest dog. We know we've had some health problems here and there, tragedy or two here and there, but overall he's doing really well, and he's a great dog. Everybody who meets him just falls in love with him right away. So my buddy Max, I did not name him Max. That's the name he came with. So you know, don't judge me. But yeah, so there he is. Now, it's funny, as I'm recording this, he's actually right here. I actually have him and Bella over at my house in Gearing temporarily because Laura had some work to do, and she wasn't going to be able to get home and feed them on time and let them out. And we all know what happens if you don't let the dogs out on time. You find poop on the floor. So yeah, Max is now a teenager. He's now 13 years old. I've had him for 5 years now, and he's just wonderful.